Thank you for sharing your lives, half of your lives with me. But yeah, so I am Israella Samonte. I am, like I said, the executive director for Hawaii Filmmakers Collective. We are, if none of you are familiar with it, we are a collective of independent filmmakers and actors and actresses, writers, producers, anything, people who are just curious to make films, first time people who want to make film. I call it like a nice ohana, nice ohana of filmmakers who have all these angst and want to make a film. We're located in Waialae Avenue, and we can discuss more, but the main objective of Hawaii Filmmakers is to make sure that we foster and we also showcase. So we foster by giving workshops and seminars and speakers, and then we also display their work by doing 48-hour film challenges, film festivals, and show your shorts. So we show any independent filmmakers here locally in Hawaii, we show them to the public. So yeah, that's what I'm heading. I'm the executive director there. The other side of my life is I am an occupational therapist. So, and we can talk about that later on how do you balance, like we know, and that's what I'm here for. This is one topic that I wanted when Vera asked me what topic you want to share, and I feel like as women and also as people who have a profession but they love the arts, like how do you balance that and how do you find inspiration and still make a film out of it? So without further ado, I'm just going to show you a clip of one of the films that I made. I don't know if you can see it, or do we have to turn off the light? It's like 30 seconds. Okay. Yeah. It's probably okay.
We were like, make sure that we set up, so no technologies, and then we were too early maybe. And then it shuts itself off.
Okay. Anyways, we can watch it later. What? No. Why does it always? There you go. All right, perfect. All right.
Light off.
Yeah, that was my trailer.
Can we see it again?
Yeah, we can do it for 1 hour. Yeah, okay. You guys ready? All right.
I don't want to see it at all.
Huh?
I don't want to see it at all.
That's what trailers are for. Okay, so let me just gonna close this now. Okay. Yeah, so. All right, there you go. Nah, we can do that. Yeah, so just keep that in mind, that trailer in mind. But one of the things, I'm going to give you a little bit about my background, like how I got started into film, and yeah, a little bit about myself. So as everybody here know, you have a dream as a kid, right? Everybody has this dream. What do you want to be when you grow up? And for me, I always wanted to be a director when I was a kid. I was always, I was into theater. My parents just pushed me into all the arts because I wasn't very athletic. But and my sister was, but they pushed me into ballet and theater, and one thing really stuck with me was theater. I loved acting back then. I loved being able to, change something, and I think that's the biggest word is I needed to change the environment, the reality. I like stepping out of reality and being able to experience a different form of living. And that really gave me a hook until later on I didn't want to act anymore. I wanted to capture that change and I wanted to become a director. And I remember just having like a small, those Clorox, for Clorox, like jug, like container. That was my piggy bank, and I wrote there, this is for my money. When I become 18, I told my parents, I'm gonna use all this money to have a studio. Of course, we all know what happened. Exactly. So as life, and I honed that skill, and I honed that skill attending workshops and all of that. But the reality sets in. You get into college, right? And then me being Asian, my parents are great supporters, but I think a lot of it is you become either a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer if you're Asian. There's a pressure to make it into, a paying job, so to speak. But one thing that my dad, when I was struggling with this, I wanted to become, I was living in Vietnam, and my dad's an engineer, but he was also in nonprofits. He was, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Food for the Hungry, World Vision. So we traveled a lot as a family because he would help a lot of third world countries. And with that experience, I saw what really was important in life. I don't know if that makes sense, but really what makes somebody happy, what makes somebody sad. And I saw the reality of the imbalance that I was in. And one time I was in Vietnam and I went with my dad. He actually said, go with the doctor, hand out medicine because he was helping the water supply. And this was a community where they put AIDS and leprosy all together in one community, and they can't leave. In Vietnamese, they call this the dead city. So people will go there, and my dad was helping with the water system because the water system was really bad. So with the doctors, and the doctors would go and check, but it's forgotten, city. So I was there, and one person, she was a really old lady, and she had leprosy, and she didn't have hands. She came to me and said, come in, which is thank you. And with her eyes, just like full of tears, and that was my moment. That was my moment where I told my dad, I don't know if I want to be a director. I don't know if I want to be in film or I want to help people. And he said to me, I said, I want that feeling of the same thing when people start clapping hands because you did a good job in a performance and you bow. That is priceless, what I felt there that day. And my dad said, you can always be a doctor and still do film, but you can't be a director acting like a doctor. Hence, we're here. So one thing led to another, and so I went to as time went by, I had to put that in the side of my mind was the art. Like I call it like being a diabetic, and you don't want to be shown ice cream because you can't eat it. That was art for me. That was film for me. I had to really suppress it because as therapists, we have to, it's all science. I'm like, where is the art in here? It was all science, and I had to really I had to dive into that and really experience it full on with all my brain cells attached to learning. And then after going to OT school, I was so fed up with it that I said, now I really want to do film. And I made a film, and it was, one thing really struck me was, I saw a documentary that was about autism. And I was sitting there, and it was funny because I was interviewing for a clinic to be an OT, and they said to me, sit down over here while you're waiting for for the person who's going to interview you. We want you to watch 60 Minutes. And I was there. This is back in Los Angeles. I was there 60 minutes. I'm like, okay, this is a really good documentary. Yeah, while you're waiting for your interview. And then, so one thing, it just fascinated me so much that I went back home and I said, I want to make a film based off this. And then that's when I realized, okay, well, autism, I really don't like, back then, to be honest, I was a fresh graduate. I don't want to deal with autism, but there's something fascinating about that documentary that made me dug deep into autism, and I researched and wrote my film based on that, and I got, they hired me as an OT, and I said to myself, I really don't was putting my script off, being really diving into OT, but still it was that I want ice cream. Like, I want ice cream. I want that film, like, I want the cake. And I was just going back and forth. Finally, I made my film, and I realized at that point was like, oh, this is where I can balance it. I can be in this profession, but I also can tell a story. So fast forward was, I know everything was fast forward. It's like fast forward. I came to a point where my film got into a festival in Los Angeles. As everybody knows, Los Angeles is cutthroat. It's not like here where everybody hugs each other and supports each other. Los Angeles is tough. My film got into a film festival, and everybody knows once your film gets into a film festival, it's your ticket, it's your business ticket. You gotta have already like a script. And then at that point, producers came to me and says, do you have a script for a feature? And I said, yes. The answer was no. Like, I was already, because my brain was like, I'm doing occupational therapy. Like, I work from 8 till 5 running around with kids with autism. And I'm like, no, I don't have a script, but I'll make it work. And he said, give it to me in 2 weeks. I said, all right. So after work, there's this cafe there that they called Insomnia, where all the writers, 24 hours, were just writing. And I sat there after work, swatching like people, maybe I'm gonna get inspired. 2 o'clock, I was still like, act 1. It was such a nightmare, and that was, it was fascinating because I was crying. I remember it was first week I was crying. Writer's block just became so bad that I probably wrote 3 lines and I couldn't get past that line. And the writer, that was a pivotal moment of my profession and my love of ice cream or film, because that I knew that was it. You either dive or you sink. And that was also the week of my board exam. That was that month of my board exam. So I knew I was in a crossroad. And one thing remained is I knew if I say no, that's it. This is it. Like I'm gonna either say no to occupational therapy or say no to film. And what I told the producer after crying for 1 week, I said, I'm sorry, I don't have a feature for you. Oh, it's okay, do you want a ghostwriter? And I said, no, I don't want a ghostwriter. Okay, well, can we buy your film? And I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, okay. And I said, that moment, it's funny when you say no, all these thoughts, because you made a decision, it gives you a solid foundation of what's your purpose in life. And I said, I love film and I want to be able to make films on my own without any pressure from anybody. I want to tell my story according to how I view it and how I see it, without producers nagging on me on what the film should be. And because I'm going to be working, I'm going to support my passion. And that's how we come here. But that was a very pivotal moment when I think I was empowered when I said no to the producer, and they just looked at me like, nobody has said no to us. Like, we're offering you money here and a chance to have a feature. But that 2 weeks of pressure, I knew I couldn't write. I knew I was not going to be an artist. I was going to be working for somebody else's story or what they want. And I didn't want that. And that's when I found out I'm a true artist, because I don't want people dictating me on what I should and shouldn't do. I want my art form to be how I see it without caring about anybody else's opinion, because it is art. Everybody has an opinion, so I don't care, right? And then I moved here to Hawaii. 10 years later, I moved here to Hawaii. I was helping in a bunch of films, because I was helping in a bunch of films here and there, directing, being an assistant director. I just wanted to be in the field, like just want to see the camera, smell the set. Like I was just like anything. I know I can't eat it. Just let me see it. So it was painful, but I'm like, one day I'll make a film. One day I'll make a film. And it's amazing when I moved here to Hawaii, that's when I saw, like, because of the Hawaii Filmmakers Collective, I was able to make my film. And one thing that really struck me is now all my films are based off on, I made so many films back in Los Angeles, but it was just for me, and I don't like promoting my film. I'm always a true, like, if you're supposed to see it, you're supposed to see it. When I came here, this film that I'm doing is, I knew my calling was, my purpose in life was to help people. I knew that early on in Vietnam, like my purpose in this earth is to help people either physically or psychologically. My purpose as a filmmaker is to be able to share this to the public and have a common ground and represent these people. And with that, I was able to merge both of my passion, and it became, I call it now I can put quinoa in my ice cream and say it's healthy. But I know, sorry, my friend was eating ice cream, so the only thing I could perfectly symbolizes ice cream. But I think that was when I knew I was grounded and I wasn't getting pulled, and I was gonna make it work, because at the end of the day, what drives you is your purpose. To anything, whether art, work, and how you can help other people. At least for me, that was one of my experiences, is because in the film industry, it's hard. It's hard. It's a lot of grit. And one thing you're always gonna, especially when you're passionate about a story, you're gonna get into, at least for me, I mean, you're gonna get into so many obstacles that will make you ask yourself the question, why am I doing this again? I guess for everybody here, there will come a point where you are gonna ask, why am I doing this? And you come to a point where you're like, okay, what was the original purpose for this? And you always go back to that vision. You always go back to that mission. And that was one thing that I knew that I was able to, with the 30 plus years that I've been living here in this world, I finally was able to say, this is my mission and vision for myself as an artist and as a professional. I can't live with both. I love being an occupational therapist because I knew I was doing exactly what I was called here on earth for, and I knew my medium was also to share it with people through film. So what this film that you guys saw, we're going to go back there, is, I'll just give you a little background, is he's actually one of my patients. Yeah, so he's one of my patients that really connected to me. I work with pediatrics, but I also work with adults. Mostly the aging population, or preschool to high school, and I see a gamut of just problems. That's why I don't have kids. No, side note. But one thing that I really appreciate is you get, I think in the medical field, this is, I can speak for physical occupational speech therapists, we're really with them for an hour, just getting to know their lives, and they get to share their lives with us. There's a back and forth, and I really appreciated that in my interactions with people, and I saw how life brought them down, who they were, lifted them up, and that created that inspiration for me. And this film called Same Thing is a story about that, about one of my patients who had a double amputation of his legs. And just being able to share experiences with him and go through the process, and a lot of these issues that I feel dearly about that people in this profession, or patients, are going through, not a lot of people know about it. And that's my mission, is to be able to share that with the public. So to give you, I know this is like a share your own story, but I'm gonna leave you guys with an acronym. FLOW. The topic that I'm discussing today is, how do you merge your profession and inspiration in making a film? Especially with all we're not talking about money, we're not talking about producing, we're not talking about actors, those are just we're talking about how do we create a story. And FLOW, F, find your purpose. Find your purpose, whatever it is. Everybody here on this planet has a purpose in life. If you can ask those hard questions in your day-to-day activity here, you will find that purpose. And and then you're gonna see everything around you is just pointing you to that very purpose. For the people that you see, you talk, you interact with, the experiences that's brought into your life, it's all pointing to that purpose. So L, L, look around you. Look around you. look for stories, get to know the people around you, like here. Just being able to hear everybody you speak. I already had visuals of when you were telling this story. I already had all these visuals in my mind without even really getting to know who you were. And my next project is, now I want to invite you for a cup of coffee. Tell me more about yourself. And as you observe and you look for all these things that fascinate you, you're going to start creating characters for your story. That's the observe. What do you like about those people? What do you don't like about that person? And what do you think their struggle is? Or what is something that is, observe how their nuances, their mannerisms. And this creates characters in your story that you can, 5 people can be one person all into one, right? And this is, you're just walking the street and you have this story in your mind, and somebody just said, so you start appreciating everybody who's around you, wherever you are, regardless of what your profession is, because you get to observe them and you get to ask all these questions, and when you write your script, you start putting those things in. And then W, okay. W, I have to think about W. What, again, is your story? What is your purpose and what is your story? Once you merge these characters and what your purpose is, I think whatever profession you're at or you're in, you will be able to create inspirational stories based off that will help people see other perspectives that's going around you. And I think for filmmaking, it's such a powerful tool that a lot of people miss how powerful you can either change a perspective or you can either make them status quo. And one of the things that, for me as a filmmaker, I want to change perspectives. I want to open people's eyes to things that they probably will not know given the opportunity. And just like here, everybody here has different professions. That's something that I'm not exposed to, but you are. And telling that story to people is already an inspiration, and I think something worth sharing. So, flow. Yeah, so that's my spiel.
Wow.
Yeah? Any questions? Yeah, but we talk story here.
Well, you're exactly where I'm at in my head. I follow an artist to Hawaii. I'm originally from New York, the theater, ballet, opera, but I was always too scared to get up there myself. But I had a friend that was an actress, and I would follow them. I bought headshots, and I flew them to what they needed to go to. But mostly, you find that people that hang around artists are actually artists themselves that just haven't brought it out yet. So that's where I was for a long, long time. And then I realized I wasn't bringing anything to the relationship or the table, personally. What did I have? And that's when I started to wake up and realize I had to work on myself to offer anything to someone else.
Mm.
I'm also a psych major.
Right.
I'm from UH. So,
there you go.
I graduated from
You
KCC, but I'm 6 credits shy of my BA in psych from UH. I got sick, that's why I got it now. But
Yeah.
so we're all in some kind of mental health occupation.
Right.
Other than movies.
Yeah.
But I think you get to a certain age where you realize, hey, I've got to do this. This is one chance at that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think being filmmakers, or you're here because you're interested in film, right? I think one thing we have all in common being here is we are fascinated with stories, right? We are fascinated, but we also have our own stories that we want to be able to let the world know. In film school, I have, you can pick out who will kind of make it and who won't. One person said he just wanted to make another Titanic. That was his, yeah. And all his film was about himself. And it's fine. It's fine.
Sorry, I had to add that.
Yep. Yep. Nobody wanted to be his crew, but at the end of the day, I think one thing that I had to be like, oh, I was now curious about him, and I got to know him. Asked him, do you want to go out for coffee? And so he said, okay. So he had really good stories. So he was one of my characters in one of my films. But exactly. But I think one thing, like we have in common, is being observant, right? I think that's a key, is being observant and creating stories that you really, really enjoy, and then merging it into something that you want to tell the world. And it could be yourself, about who you are. It could be your passion or how you went through around it. But everybody, like I'm finding a lot of filmmakers, they want to talk about themselves as a self-expression, what they went through. And I think that's powerful too. I think, like as a perspective in writing the story, right, you have conflicts, God versus man versus man. You're gonna learn this in writing school. It's just like that. But I think man versus himself is really, really powerful. And if you find that in your profession, why am I struggling in this? I just helped the film out. That was exactly his film. It was about, he didn't want to be a teacher anymore. So the film was about that. But he created another character based on that. It's a lot of self-expression, but at the end of the day, what's your purpose for making this film about yourself? Is it a rant, like I call it teenage angst, just letting it out? Or do you want to inspire people to change perspectives and just not let them stay in a status quo of frame of mind?
So as I'm sitting here listening to you, you were talking about money, and I was sitting like this, and this had nothing to do with you. As a psych major, I'm analyzing myself. So one of my financiers had called me back, and I'm a little angry because they said today was the day that they was going to give me the money. And so I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you, but I'm trying not to get pissed if they have called me back. I know they're going to call me, but so this is what psychologists do. We sit here and analyze everything. So I wanted to tell you that so that you didn't think that when I was like this, it was.
Oh, no, my brain is off. After 4 p.m., I'm just like, my superpowers are gone.
So I was like this. I wanted to mention it because I didn't want you to think that was about you. I'm just kind of.
Oh, you're gonna be in my next film for sure.
We're talking about $3,500 here. No.
But maybe talking about that, I mean, unless anybody else has a question, like,
Everybody wants to.
yeah.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, basically I do want to create inspirational films as well. Is there any funding or anything, or
Yeah.
how do I go about, and it's not, say I create a short film or short story, whatever, but I still need help putting it through and ideas, and I want to just share it for, just help people, encourage them.
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter about the money. I just want to shoot. Is there any place that I could go?
Absolutely. Hawaii Filmmakers Collective. And Hawaii Women in Film. And there's two. So we're brothers and sisters, right?
Yes.
This,
Sisters.
yeah. This, being involved in Hawaii women in filmmaking is the best choice that you're probably going to have. It's because you need to be surrounded by people who will encourage you, who will point you to the right direction. And I think that's the beauty that's what we're really embracing here in Hawaii, that I'm so excited. It's just having like organizations like FARA, like, the Hawaii Filmmakers Collective, or any organization that you have, just be in contact, be part of it, and because it takes a village to make a film. There's no solo. If you want to be director, producer, writer, everything, good luck. Just make a YouTube channel. Yeah, that's yeah. So, and which is not bad. But you know, if you want to talk about film, you need a community supporting you. You need a village supporting you. And in terms of funding, just a tad of. So what I do with my, if you guys want to know how I'm funding my film. So what I've done when I wanted to be serious about making my film, so every month I would set aside money from my salary, you know, and I call it the film pot. It's just like my travel pot.
Not a Clorox thing.
Yeah.
It's still the Clorox, surprisingly. Still when I was a kid, I still have it in my piggy bank. But yeah, and that goes a lot, especially for a short film. How do you, like, what's the budget? Maybe that's the questions that you guys are asking me. I see it in your eyes. So making a short film, the budget, it depends on what your film is, but my biggest advice is really making sure that once you have the story, reality check is the next question, right? You have to be the producer, so you have to be able to say, okay, maybe we're not gonna do pyro, you know, explosions. Maybe, you know, maybe, yeah, bonfire would do. So all of those things, like you create a budget, and from that pot that I called it, I had to save up for 1 year, and then that was my budget. And I had to make it work for this budget. And for my film, what I did was I did a pitch meeting. So you can find a pitch meeting. Hawaii Filmmakers Collective has it, Vera has it. You do a pitch, and that's usually you get funding for equipment, whatever, space rental, or all of that. So that will lower your costs down. And then for actors and actresses, you just, again, through Vera's organization, you put a SAG or Hawaii Filmmakers, or there's another one website that you can look for actors and actresses. Right, yeah. So post it out there, and then we can talk more about, but how you negotiate the pricing is another. I got an actor, he's in Hawaii 5-0. And I had to go through SAG, so that's another beast that you have to yeah. There's insurance. There's a lot. There's insurance. There's permits. All of these things, but again, because you prepared for it, you planned ahead. You're not like just, hey, I'm making a movie. Like you plan ahead and you're like, okay, this is what I'm gonna, then the cost goes lower, and then you have to prepare for your equipment and then cast. These, like, I asked my friends, she, like Jenna here, she was my AD, and the first thing I said, do you want me to help? Do you want to help out? She goes, yeah, what am I gonna do?
What's an AD?
What's an AD? I'm like, Google it. But you know, I asked my trusted friends to help out, but because I knew their work ethics already. So Jenna did a great, amazing job, and so I just had to tell her these are the things that I need, and probably I only had 3 real crew there. Everybody else were my friends, so that lowered the cost. So all of this is just planning, you know, it's at the end of the day is knowing your purpose and planning all of these things and then getting there and doing it. But without the purpose, that grit of, if you really want to push that purpose, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, because a lot of people want to say, I want to make a film, I want to make a film. Push comes to shove, that purpose will make you stay in the game, because there's a lot of balls that's going to be thrown, curveballs that's going to be thrown at you. And you can probably reach, this is now going into film festivals. And I don't know if it's going to enter a film festival. you know? But some people ask me, does it matter if it gets shown, you know, worldwide? Remember what I talked to you? No, for me, it doesn't matter. If I can impact 2 people in the room and they start changing their perspective because of that, I really feel like I've already made my purpose as a director. It doesn't matter anymore if it goes into a film festival. I don't know if that makes sense, but still at least make it quality to make it into a lot of film festivals.
And sometimes, though, you can also, like for example, when you say impact, you may think of organizations who have a similar mission, and in terms of raising funds, maybe those are like the organizations that you want to work with, like, you know, maybe even hospitals may fund some of their grants, and there are filmmakers grants. There are several websites. We share some of those resources on our website as well. Because it's all, I mean, it's a lot of budget, but it's also as you're like doing right now, you know, go to events, go to films, go to where other filmmakers are, and see who are funding their films as well, right? So we have the Granting Aid here. I don't know if we still have the Mayor Office of Arts and Culture that does fund films as well. But that's a lot of homework that you have to do ahead of time, right? Like, what's your story, but also what is going to be the impact of your story, and then identifying who the potential funders and donors of your film are. And then you can do something post as well. Once the film is done, you can organize fundraising. I don't know, I mean, there are several strategies to raise funds.
Indiegogo is also a good source.
I don't know if it's still as popular as it was before. Kickstarter, you know, like
Kickstarter.
Online crowdfunding campaign. But even for that, you need to have already something done.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So it's like banks give money to people who have money already.
Yeah.
But it depends, right? So we actually, at the Women of Wonder Film Fest, we're screening 6 short films that we produce thanks to a grant that we receive from the Arts and Culture. Because you need money, you know, it's good to have friends.
How did the 6 people get into the film?
We hired them.
Okay.
So it's all female crews, directors, and they are films about women filmmakers. So that's going to be so come.
Yeah. So like being involved like that, those are great, because even if you become a crew on one of those is already like priceless, because
and we pay everybody involved.
Right.
That's what being a feminist organization looks like for us.
Right. Exactly.
No
No free. Yeah. After I can just give out my card.
Is there
Any
more
questions?
I don't know. I was curious to hear your answer on this one. Stories. We have so many stories. We want to be able to share them and have others enjoy them. How do you pick and choose what stories to tell, I suppose? Like, how do you prioritize the purpose of each story and get it out there?
I think for me is what do I want to tell? Like every story has a purpose, right? But what story at this time do I want is I feel like it's really pressing that people should know. I think that's what, for me at least, that's what I needed to pick. Like nobody has done a story like for autism that was way back in 2004, and that's when just like autism was nobody, like they thought autism were just crazy people running around, you know, in their own world. And I'm like, it was so compelling for me, like, no, they're not like this, you know, they're just like us. It was so strong that I needed to tell the story. With this aging population, I was just hearing it. Remember when I told you in the beginning, it's just gonna point, this is everything around you. If you just observe, it's gonna point you what story, I don't know, call it like metaphysics or God or whatever purpose, but it's gonna point you, like this story, everybody around me that time was talking about their parents going to the nursing home, somebody in the nursing home, somebody, and I'm just like, you know, I was meeting these people and I'm like, that's the story, you know? So I think that it's really important to observe, you know, to observe and pick and choose, because the timing of your story is even if you go to Hollywood, they would put it in the library for a certain time. They would buy your film, put it in the library when it's already trending. Let's make a film. They pull it out. So if you want, yeah, that's how you basically, it's the trend, you know. But in terms of purpose, what do you feel around you that people need to know at that moment currently will have a good impact?